Hello and welcome to Skeindeer Knits. My name is Ellie and I am a Norwegian living and knitting in London. And you can find me on Instagram as Skeindeer and on Ravelry as a designer called Skeindeer Knits. And that is also the name of my Ravelry group, which is the best place to take part in knit-alongs and getting pattern support and getting in touch and taking part in the Skeindeer Knits community. Welcome to my knitting podcast, the kind of what I've come to call my knitting talk show. If you're a new viewer, that is basically what I do here. I sit and talk about my knitting, what I design, what I make and buy and that kind of thing. If you're a returning viewer, welcome back. You may notice that my voice is a little bit so and so. I think right now I'm doing okay because I literally just started talking, but it is a little bit worse for wear because I have just come back from Scotland. I have been to Edinburgh Yarn Festival for a whole week and I finished off the entire trip by having a 2-hour lecture, giving a 2-hour lecture I might specify. So this could only go one way, but I figured I have time to record right now. This is kind of my little break between the EYF week and getting back to my PhD working, so it's now or never and I need to clear out all the new acquisitions. I have a little bit of a disappointing message, is that I made big bold promises about filming a lot for Edinburgh Yarn Festival because this is episode 100. So yeah, I didn't. It's what I have to say about that. I have some footage and I will show it to you now and then I will keep talking. Hello! Hello! We are at Edinburgh Yarn Festival and it's day 3 and I've been very good at recording the previous days. And I've got my friends and we've had some delicious breakfast and we're gonna try not to buy yarn because we really bought quite a bit. And we've decorated our Airbnb with the yarn. So yeah. So hopefully that was a nice introduction to this video. It's what I got. What can I say? It was knackering in the best of ways. But if you want to see more from Edinburgh Yarn Festival, I can highly recommend a bunch of other people who I know who were there, who did great efforts to document. I know that Heidi of Books and Cables did a great job of it. Grace, as every year, of the Babbles Travelling Yarn and Podcast, did a stellar job of vlogging. And I also know that, you know, vlogging master Mina of the Knitting Expat was also filming a lot and she was there. So altogether I think that will give you a nice selection of Edinburgh Yarn Festival filming material if you want to watch and experience the festival vicariously. Speaking of which, Caroline of Knitting Vicariously, I can't imagine that she didn't overly document it as well. So there you have a couple of options to take part in the festival from afar. I really should have taken some like voice exercises before starting this, but regardless, I'm just going to briefly cover some admin stuff before we get into the knitting of the week. I am running 2 knit-alongs at the moment. There is the year-long knit-along where we aim to make 6 pairs of colourwork mittens for the year of 2019. There is more information about that in my Ravelry group Skeindeer Knits. The other knit-along that I'm running is Second Language Cal, had to think for a bit there. It's where we basically knit from a pattern that is written in a language that we don't often knit from. More information about that in my Ravelry group as well. The cal is actually supposed to come to an end at the end of March. If nothing changes, that is the case. I will check in with my group and see how people are getting on and how they feel about concluding it or keeping on with it. I haven't been in the group since I went to Edinburgh, so I will be spending this day kind of touching base on a lot of things like the group and my test knits and stuff. Yeah. Anyway, that's all I have to say about admin, so now we can talk about knitting. I have a new pattern. It's here. I should be wearing it. Why am I not wearing it? Yes, yes. So this is Korsakoff there. It is a slightly cringy name, I will admit, but I like it. The story behind the name is basically that I have some hang-ups with the word hygge. It's just a word. Hygge is just a word. It's like if someone were to make, if they took the word placid and they made lots and lots of books about it and they said, oh yes, the English way of life, and then it's just a word. So yeah. The other hang up I have about it is that in my region in Norway it doesn't really mean what it means, say, in Denmark. We would use words like kos. So I thought, you know what, I'm gonna use that and call it Korsakoff there because it's a cardigan that's cozy. So this is it. It's the beast of a cardigan. The reason why it came out so quickly all of a sudden, even though it has taken a while, is because I brought it to Edinburgh Yarn Festival and then I realised, well, if I'm going to be wearing this thing and people are going to ask me about it, I should probably have a pattern out. So I checked with my tech editor and she was happy to get it done and edited quickly, and so we managed to have it released the midnight before the festival. Yeah, so that was the thing that happened. I still haven't sewn on any buttons, but it does have buttonholes, so in case there was any doubt. I'm going to spend a bit of time talking about this cardigan and then I'm going to get into what I have finished and what I have worked on. And yeah, at the end I'm going to be talking about the disaster that is in the background. So, Korsakoff is constructed bottom up. For a change, I don't usually do bottom up, but this thing, I mean, it's supposed to be oversized and just massive and like a coat cardigan. So in terms of fit and adjusting length and all that kind of thing, it's not as crucial as it may be in kind of a more fitted, say, raglan or yoke that you do top down. So in this case, I didn't really mind. Plus it does make the lice pattern point in the right direction. So we like that. You actually start off knitting the folded hem. So there's a bit of flat knitting before you get started, because if you do that in the round and you then steek, you will get a double steek here, and that's quite bulky. I tried that before, it didn't work out. So can recommend doing this a bit flat, which is what the pattern says. Then you do a row that gives you like this purl ridge, and then you fold and start doing color work in the round. So that is where you create the steek. Try not to give away the whole pattern, Ali. Try to not do that. So working this thing in the round with the steek for the front. Right, and we work. And the pattern tells you also how to adjust needle size for the folded hem, for the color work, for stockinette. And by the way, I consider lice pattern stockinette, but if you want to change needle size for the couple of rows where you do color work here, that's entirely up to you. I didn't specify either way. So you're up to here, there's more color work, and then the underarm. So you make another steek for each underarm, for each sleeve hole, goodness me. You basically just cast on mid-row, just do a backwards loop cast on it. It's gonna look weird, but it will work, trust me. And you just keep knitting in the round and you work in this gorgeous chart, and you keep working, and you are then binding off for the front of the neck and casting on another steek for the neck hole, because I don't want you having to work flat in color work. Nobody likes that. So you're steeking for the arm, the arm. Hello, this is where the neck opening, and you do the same for the back so that it will drop a little bit for the back as well, as you can see here. There's a bit of a drop. So altogether there are 5 steeks. 5. My test knitters got on with that really well, so I'm quite confident that this is something that you can do whether you have steeked before or not. And having said that, there is actually a kind of decision making chart, what do you call that, mind map, a flow chart, I don't know what they're called, whatever. There's an illustration for how you can know whether to steek with or without sewing with a machine. So basically the way steeks work, you have a bunch of stitches. This is the bridge between your sections of usually stockinette, and you cut through them. But in order to cut through them, you need to have secured it somehow. Now, if you use a very sticky wool, you don't really have to secure it, but it's quite nice if you use the crochet reinforcement, which I like to call the crochet stabilizer. And there is a really nice Very Pink Knits tutorial for that I think I have linked to in the pattern. If you're using a slicker yarn, a yarn that you do not feel confident in cutting without sewing, you need to sew with a machine. So I basically included, I guess, a flow chart for how to choose. So the yarn basically has to be woolen spun, sheep wool, non-superwash, and ideally you should have a swatch to cut through, and if that didn't unravel, then you're good to go. I used worsted spun yarn, so this yarn was actually not as good to steek through without sewing as I initially thought, so I learned the hard way and had to get my mum to sew after I had cut. I know lots of people are confident in cutting this particular yarn, Peer Gynt by Sandnes, without sewing. I just wasn't, but that's because I like to be on the side of caution, which is also why I included the flow chart. Goodness me. I need to like have a week's break from talking, I think. That's what I need. So that was steek overload for you all, but it's something I've tried to explain as clearly as I can in the pattern. And yeah, also this is a very heavy cardigan. Peer Gynt is a very heavy yarn. It is the yarn I'm recommending because it's what the sample's made of. But honestly, if you want to knit a lighter one, you could hold yarns like Hold Supersoft, JC Rennie Supersoft, Roma Lammul, that kind of thing, and hold that double. You will get a much lighter cardigan because there will be more meterage even when you hold it double. So that's a recommendation. You do not want this beast. Though I don't see why you wouldn't want to. I have just loved having this winter. I bought a beautiful coat just before Christmas and I wore it a lot during the holidays, and then since I finished this is all I've been wearing. It just keeps me really warm, and I'm quite proud of it, and it's really cool to be able to say that I made this. And now that there's a pattern, you can make it too, and there's a code. Basically, I usually launch discount codes at the same time on YouTube and on Instagram, so that people who are early can buy the pattern a little bit cheaper, just to help me get the pattern out there, and I can give back to them for helping me out getting a pattern to kind of catch steam early on. And that just was a little bit different this time around because I did manage to launch it on Instagram on the day, but I'm only telling you about this now on YouTube. If you do want to know things in real time, then it's a good idea to follow me on Instagram or pay attention to my Ravelry designs. But the easiest way is to follow me on Instagram, should you be using that. I mean, even if you don't, you can just go to instagram.com/Skeindeer. Maybe it's /user/Skeindeer. I'm not entirely sure, but I link usually to it down below. Do I have anything else to say? Sleeves are bottom up too. Yeah, they are very quick to make. Deceptively quick. You work the folded hem in the round, you then do a purl round, and then you do color work, and you go up a bit in needle size because the cuff is made to be a little bit snugger. Snugger, is that a word? Snug, more snug. You increase in color work, which I've tried to explain as best as I can in the pattern. There's actually individualized charts for this bit, so that it increases the way you want it to. And off you go. And there is actually a little, this is the part of the pattern that I'm the most proud of. There is like the inside of the sleeve, you fold over the steek of the armhole, so the steek is not visible. I went a slightly an unconventional way and went with the purl side facing out here. The traditional way is having the stockinette side facing out. If you feel very particular about that, then by all means switch it around. It's worked flat anyway. But I quite like this because everything else here is purled, so you know, might as well. Every steek is hidden, every bit of steek. So this is the one for the neckline. It's a bit thicker in here because it's all enclosed into this neckband. Same goes for the one at the back. It's a little bit thicker back here. And same goes for the front steek. It's all wrapped up into the button bands. So the buttonholes are actually double. See if I can show you. Don't know if you can see, but it's like, now it's see-through, now it's not, because there are two buttonholes. And it works out really well. You don't actually have to stitch them together or anything. They are completely overlapping. So yeah, I thought about a lot of details on this one. It's very, yeah, there's a lot of attention to detail, because it's designed by me, so you know. I have a way of doing that. I pay attention to the details that I think match, and then there's like other details that other people think is really important. I'm like, yeah, hadn't thought of that. Oh well. So, you know, Korsakoff there, the beast is out. Yeah, and thanks so much to everyone who said all the lovely things about this pattern when it came out. It got a lot of comments and likes on Instagram, and it made me really happy. You know, I'm always a little bit nervous when it comes to launching a new pattern, and certainly also when going to a yarn festival where I expect that I will run into people who I've never met before, and it's always very exciting. And so it's really nice to hear so many nice things both on Instagram and in real life when this was launched. I'm very proud of it. I don't know if this is the thing that is going to be super popular or be like a bit of a niche thing that I have designed. I don't know. These things are always so nerve-wracking, because sometimes it's the easiest thing, the simplest thing that catch on, and sometimes it's the more complex things. But I just wanted to design this thing for me to kind of prove to myself what I am able to make and create and design and write up. And yeah, so it's a little bit of a self-indulgent thing. It's kind of, yeah, some kind of goal that I wanted to reach. It sounds very arbitrary, but yeah. I'm gonna stop the ramble now. But one thing I wanted to ask you guys, how do you feel about running a cal for it? I'm kind of between two options right now. There was either doing a knit along for this cardigan only, or a Skeindeer Knits garments cal, so we can do all my garment patterns for adults to make it fair. So sweaters and cardigans. I'd be interested to hear what you think. If you think it would be cool to have a Korsakoff specific cal, or a Skeindeer garments in general type cal. You guys know me and the knit alongs, that is what cal stands for. They are very flexible. If I see that people are struggling with time, I tend to expand the deadline. I often also tend to launch knit alongs without deadlines, so that I see how people get on before I even decide when to conclude it. And I tend to also announce the deadline then well ahead of it in time, because I'm really interested in that people actually have time to finish and be in the draw for prizes when they're so amazing to want to knit my patterns. So that is just something I'm wondering right now, how you feel about that. If you're already cast on this cardigan, I can always say that the start deadline is the launch date of the pattern. That's fine. So just airing that idea out there and seeing how you guys feel. Given that I have so many finished things to show you, it's a little bit weird that I'm just wearing my improv raglan today, but yeah, no, it was just the first jumper that I saw today, and I like the color. It's knit in Pickles merino tweed, their fingering weight tweed yarn. It's really nice. I held it double, so it was a quick knit as well. But yes, no, I have another garment to show you. That was where this tangent began. I finished my Edinburgh Yarn Festival cardigan, and I am so proud of it. You know what, I'm gonna change into it right now, because I forgot I was gonna talk about this. Seriously, I should plan my outfits a bit better and being a bit more on theme. But yeah, this is the Magnolia cardigan by Camilla Vard, who I had the pleasure of running into twice at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. First, when she came up to me and said, "I like what you did with the Magnolia, it's really nice." And I'm like, "Oh, thank you, random person." I didn't say that, but I didn't realize it was her. So I ran into her later, and she was wearing her Magnolia. I wasn't wearing mine, but hey ho. And yeah, we had a nice chat, and she reminded me that she does have wonderful lamb's wool in her own brand, and I'm like, I need to investigate this yarn more. So that's on my mental schedule. But it was really nice seeing her. She was an amazing person, really nice, and I am so pleased with this cardigan. I absolutely loved knitting it. It was one of those things that just keeps on giving. It was interesting throughout. I was quite hooked on knitting the yoke while I was in Norway and while I was at Unravel. I split for the sleeve and the body, and it wasn't that far from that split to the lace pattern because I chose to do it cropped, so I never really got sick of anything. And I usually get through Sleeve Island pretty quickly because I do use circulars instead of magic loop or DPNs and things like that, so for me it's usually a pretty quick ordeal, especially these that I chose to do quite fitted. Not usually my preferred thing, but yeah, no. And I did the sleeves a couple of times actually, because it first time around I kept knitting until I realized I'd missed the bit that said at the same time, because you're supposed to work in the lace pattern here as well. So I realized I didn't want that, but I realized I could get in 3 repeats of the stockinette to rib transition lace portion of the lace pattern. I did that and it looked really baggy and weird, so I ripped it out and did a 2 repeats, so there was more decreases, so it was more fitted, and that seemed really weird and snug, and you didn't get a sense of the repeat because there were only 2, so I ripped that out as well and just did a very simple stockinette and twisted rib. And you know what, sometimes the easiest option is often the best, as they say in a Norwegian commercial. So I went with that. So I'm gonna stand up so you can see the whole thing and see the Magnolia boobs, as they say. And yeah, this is it. And this is how long it is. And I'm only wearing leggings because I didn't actually think I was going to show you this while wearing it. So pardon me for being a little bit indecent. But yeah, these buttons were carefully chosen by a handful of friends of mine when I gave them a couple of options, and everyone said yes, these buttons. And I think it works really well because of the floral patterning of the magnolias and the floral look of the wooden buttons. They're proper wood, and I love wooden buttons. I pretty much only like wooden buttons and metal buttons. I realise I don't like them plastic unless they're made to look like wood or metal. So yeah, this has absolutely no fitting whatsoever, but it fits well anyway. I don't know if it's because the odd pearl column in the lace or what have you, but it fits me really well. It actually is quite loose, but for some reason it doesn't look it. So I love this cardigan. It definitely will be a staple in my wardrobe. I did need something like this, I think. This is... Sometimes you don't know what you need in your wardrobe until you have it, and this was one of those. So yeah, Magnolia by Camilla Bard. I love it. It is supposed to be knit with her lamb's wool and silk mohair. I didn't want to use silk mohair because I had seen my friend Ingvild of the Norwegian Strikke Therapy podcast had made this in pure finer, a slightly lighter shade of grey than what I used. But I knew then that I needed it. She had also turned it into a cardigan instead of a sweater, which is what the pattern is. And I was like, yeah, everything you did, I need to do exactly that. So it's not very hard to turn into a cardigan, really. I didn't write any notes, but yeah, I'm pretty sure you can do it. It just costs on, you know, 5 to 7 stitches for the steek. I tend to use 7 because then I can purl the first and the last stitch of the steek, so I know to cut through the middle. I'm not going to ever get lost anywhere here. If you just have plain stockinette, it can get a bit easy to get lost. I did use the kind of crochet method. Okay, I'm just going to do this. This is looking even more indecent. So you can see there is a bit thicker because that's the crochet. Stabilizer, reinforcement, call it what you want. I didn't tack it down or anything. I don't usually bother. It doesn't really matter, I don't think, but you can do that. I usually do it at the very top and the bottom because I will always have some ends from the crochet thing anyway, so might as well. Yeah, do I have anything else to say? I don't think so. I'm just really pleased with it, and I'm also very pleased that the new Finul line, what they have now called Finul PT2, it's still Finul, but they have now started to use a tad bit more lamb's wool, and I can feel it. There's a big difference between the feel of this jumper and my Vinterfjell. My Vinterfjell sweater uses the exact same yarn, but the batch that I happen to be knitting it with was from, I think, 99 or 2000 or something. It's a very old batch of yarn, and I can feel it. It's a little bit harder, but that's fine. I'm very pleased with how they are constantly improving of Fionnual. Hashtag not sponsored, just a very big fan, and very pleased to see all the Fionnual at these Solda booths. Every time I'm so happy to see how they basically recreate a Norwegian yarn shop in their booth, in their shop really. I mean, it's like a 2-room thing. So that was really nice to see. So before I went to Edinburgh Yarn Festival, I actually had a bit of a cheeky cast on. I had so this is usually how it happens with me. I had a little bit of a stressful deadline of sorts, like kind of related to my PhD. I basically should get as much as possible writing done, and that of course made me want to binge watch the Bates Motel and knit a new jumper, as it so happens. So whenever I knit on this, I now think of the Bates Motel. Yeah. So this is Woodward by Lydia Gluck. I had to check that, but so this is Woodward by Lydia Gluck of Pom Pom magazine. It's in the latest issue of Pom Pom magazine, the spring issue of 2019. And it has these really nice sort of foresty garter details along the raglan increase. This is a very simple top-down raglan. It's as simple as it gets. I actually wonder why they didn't put this into the kind of beginners book that Pom Pom recently published, which I can recommend to anyone who's trying to convert a muggle into knitting. It would really have gone well into this, but maybe they just had enough and maybe of patterns in there. I think this is very beginner friendly. It's super just simple. There's no shaping for the neckline or anything, which I usually do prefer, but given this is going to have a turtleneck in the end, I guess no big deal. So far the neckline is very open, so I hope I will be able to close that a little bit. And I have come quite far. I am past the yoke, which took a considerable amount of time. Don't know why, but just did. And now I'm at the body. I think I'm kind of maybe halfway through before I do the rib. It isn't a very long jumper. It's a oversized boxy cropped sweater, which is kind of a so staple pom-pom shape, I feel, and it's a shape that I quite like too. But having said that, this is actually not for me, I don't think. I wonder if I'm going to give this to my friend Christy, who has been on the podcast years and years ago, year and a half, and I have been promising her to make a jumper for the longest time. And whilst this is not maybe her usual, I think she'll like it, but I will check with her first. If she doesn't want it, I mean, I don't mind. I quite like this. I love the colour, I love the yarn. The yarn is actually Custom Woolen Mills Limited Mule Spinner 2-ply 100% wool. I believe this is their worsted weight, although at times it makes me feel like it's almost chunky. It's really thick in places. I guess it can be a bit thick and thin, but I never find this to be very abrupt or anything. It does seem very even overall, even though there's some sections I'm like, this can't possibly be worsted, it's so thick. But then now I think it looks like worsted, so. Anyway, it's quite a dense fabric, which is why I think it will suit my friend, because she likes a dense knitted fabric. So I'm just holding it, this big blob of a sweater. You can't really get much of a sense of it right now. I mean, there are no sleeves on it, but it's not done. I'm just knitting on it whenever I'm watching Netflix, pretty much. So that's basically where this is at. I hope to be picking it up and knit more on it now that I'm back in London again, because it's fun, but it's not as portable anymore. It's quite massive. I think it's going to be really cozy. The yarn isn't the softest to work with, and it's quite rigid. I often find this with North American woolen spun yarns. I don't know why, if it's something to do with the breeds or whatever. I absolutely love it, but it's tough to work with. But I think once it's done, I love it. I love garments knitting it. I love the wool. It's just a little bit tougher on the hands sometimes than how I find European woolen spun yarns, and I don't really know why that is. It's different mills, so it could be a breed thing, that the kind of breeds that we use here have more spring in it. I don't know. I don't know stuff about this stuff. This has just been my observation, but I'm powering through. Really like this. I love this green. This green has kind of been a bit of a love affair of mine lately. Kind of actually more the past year and a half. I'm just realizing actually this is a green that I can wear. And so of course stands to reason that I'm giving it away. I mean, but not to worry, I've taken care of it. Come on boys, don't abandon me now, we still have projects to go through. So in this bag that I actually got from the Isolde studio that me and Shamika visited this summer, the end of summer, and I brought that back to Edinburgh because it just seemed sort of on topic, because the maker Anna Wright is based in Edinburgh in the same kind of studio building as Isolde, so for some reason that just seemed like a thing. And this is what I have been working on. You may not recognize what this is. I think if I show this to the designer, she would be like, what is that? I don't recognize, but yeah. This is Granito by Howie Locatelli, which I have decided to knit with steeks because I didn't want to knit it flat. You're supposed to knit the back flat top down and the front flat top down and then join in the underarm. I just steeked that. So I mean, I haven't cut through it yet, but there's top of the underarm here and the bottom is here. So this section down here needs to be cut through. I'm just trying to figure out if I think this BFL Massam is steekable without sewing. If I'm just going to do the crochet or actually get the sewing machine out. I don't know. And I'm not as confident with sewing yet that I'm sure that I should be doing it on my own, but I guess maybe I will. I tried to go to like a local sort of tailoring shop. Like there's a lot of small corner shops here in this area that do garment modifications and tailoring and adjustments and stuff. And I tried to explain to the woman what I needed and she just got the serger out and I'm like, no, no, don't, do not. Because that, it cuts one side, but what does it do with the other side, you know, of the steek? You need to have both ends sewn. So yeah, that's something I'm gonna have to deal with. It's probably perfectly fine to just use the crochet method because once I've had to drop stitches in this to fix them and pick them back up, it's actually been quite sticky, so I think it's fine. But I'm just, you know, thinking out loud here. The yarn is Knitting Goddess BFL Massam that I bought at Edinburgh Yarn Festival 2 years ago, kind of just as a reminder that I already have a sweater quantity of hers, so I don't buy yet another one, because she does have amazing yarn. I love her colorways and her bases, so that was kind of, yeah, self-restraint there. But I'm sure next time I come across her booth I'm gonna be so weak, because it's been a while, you know, since I had my Knitting Goddess yarns. I am striping the yarns, but there is some pooling going on anyway, which is annoying. You can see there some flashing of some darker bits. It happens. I did what I could to avoid it, but what you're gonna do in the end, you know, it will happen. So you can see at the front as well. Yeah, it always looks more extreme when you get bright light on it, so I don't think it's too bad. I'm using the helical method that has been widely talked about by Kristen of Woolenvine and Grace of Babbles podcast, or Babbles Trail. Sorry Grace, I can never remember your podcast. This is our friendship now. But yeah, I'm using the helical method, and it's really nice because there's never any place where there is a jog between where I change between the two skeins that I'm striping, to avoid this pooling that is happening anyway. Anyway, I'm really pleased with it. It's creating a really nice fabric, this yarn. I love it. I did knit my Birkin by Caitlin Hunter in this yarn earlier. That was the undyed yarn directly bought from Laxton's at the first Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I could knit with this yarn forever. It's so nice and soft, and wearing it is like a hug to the skin. I just think it's amazing for a woolen spun non-superwash yarn, honestly. I think it's woolen spun. I think that's what Laxton's do. I've been told conflicting information, but I think that's what they do. So I'm very excited about having this jumper. Just a simple top down charcoal drop shoulder sweater designed by Howie Locatelli. I definitely need a little bit more Howie in my wardrobe. I have the bonbon mitts that never really fit me because I didn't get a gauge, and I'm working on the boxy, which is like this close to being finished. If I just get my act together, it's in the shelf of things that I could finish if I got my act together, as it's officially named. So I think this is going to be a really nice piece to have. Just nice, simple, flattering. I keep using the word nice, but I think it's a nice word. It's got this sort of column of slip stitches down at the front. I don't know if you can See that going down here, and it's got that at the back too, just a little bit further out. They are positioned the way they are to accommodate for some pockets that I'll put in later. I'm not sure I'm going to do the pockets actually. I do love a good pocket, but these are quite small. I'm not sure they're adding bulk in the right place for me personally, and I might actually cast off the sweater at that point because I think that's a length that suits me. But I haven't decided yet. We'll see when we get there. But I'm very pleased with just how much progress I have made in this whilst I was at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. It was what I was knitting on the most because it's such a simple, just plain old stockinette with a bit of slip stitches. So I've gotten through a considerable portion. I'm just going to keep knitting. I'm probably going to bring it out today when I'm going to tell you more about my plans for today at the end of the episode, because not everyone cares. So what are you going to do? But that was Granito by Joey Locatelli. I like it. I will be working on that more today. And I also did a bit of a cheeky cast at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. Never mind that I brought 5 projects, none of which I finished while I was there. I really wanted to cast on something that I had bought. This happens, right? This happens to all of us. So I picked up some Gilpin Lalland yarn. This is yarn I have worked with before. I bought one skein from the Knitting and Stitching show back in 2016 and I loved it. The mittens I made were the Snow White mittens by Wenche Roald, who's an amazing Norwegian kind of colour work and mitten designer. She does other things too, but that's like her. She's really good at that. And I loved it. I really did like it, and I talked myself into doing a sweater with the yarn, and it's going to be the nicest, softest thing. It's actually going to be a very simple stockinette yoke with a little bit of negative ease, which is not something I do a lot, but I think given how skin friendly this pure Scottish lamb's wool is, that'd be quite nice. So I am knitting Løvetann Mamma by Tina Haugland, also known as Strikkesilla. She has designed this. It's just, yeah, a very lovely, soothing, simple pattern, and it looks really, really good on her, so I'm just kind of hoping that it will on me too. So kind of copying her sort of modified version of her own pattern where she did a cropped teal sweater. She used fionn. I was this close to getting fionn, but then I talked myself into getting this teal lamb's wool instead. So it's got the exact same meterage. It looks similar in thickness, even a little bit thicker. So I think this is going to be a perfectly fine, softer substitute. So if you were looking at a fionn substitute as well, actually Gilpin is an amazingly soft option there. Not quite the same price point, but not too far off. I would not steek this without sewing. It's far too soft to be sticky to do that, but you could steek with a sewing machine for sure. I have steeked superwash stuff a lot of times with a sewing machine, so not to worry there. But yeah, so this is just going to be a simple stockinette sweater. There's nothing to write home about really. I am just working through it. Maybe this will be what I bring out today. Gosh, I don't know now, but yeah. I am very close to the divide for the sleeve and body. According to the pattern, I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to measure, I think, see if I want the yoke to be deeper. But oh, I'm so excited about just having this in my wardrobe. So yeah, that means we are ready to talk about the haul from Edinburgh Yarn Festival. I got quite a bit, but returning viewers will probably recognize this is a lot less than what has been the haul from previous Edinburgh Yarn Festivals. It's a little bit less every year, which I take as a sign of good health. Less shopping therapy here. It's all good. The first booth that I ran to this year was quite planned, because the biggest regret I had from last year's Edinburgh Yarn Festival was that I entirely missed out on Jill Draper Makes Yarn. Now, Jill Draper often has yarn in my local yarn shop Loop, but it's usually never my colour. She's got an amazing range of saturated colours. I pretty much love them all, but it's just never been that colour, you know? So I ran to her booth so I could have the broadest selection, and this came home with me. It's actually kind of looking a bit blue on camera. This is definitely a turquoise. I'm going to see if we can get a more representative. I don't know. It's coming up as very blue here. It's definitely got a lot more green, yeah, more green to it in real life. Usually daylight is like the best way to show off the greens or any colors, but oh well, you're gonna have to take my word for it. This is definitely a turquoise, a kind of aqua color, and I think it will be a cardigan, something with some lace or maybe cables or texture, because I feel like this is a fairly well defined yarn. Even though I think this is woolen spun, it seems very well defined. So that's kind of my thinking there. I do love a good sort of lace texture cable front cardigan. So I'm thinking that's kind of the rough idea. Whether I design it or there is a design out there already that I want to knit, we'll see. Time will tell, but this is... Oh, I'm so happy to have this. I really did want to get one of her so-called yarn babies, which is like a massive skein that's just, you know, you want to cradle it almost, but I didn't see any of those, so this is what came home with me. It's called the Mohonk light base, North Atlantic. It's got 503 meters on this 113 grams hank, if you will. 100% lamb's wool. It used to be more specified what kind of breed it was. I think there was Cornwall, possibly Corriedale, not entirely sure, but now this just says lamb's wool, but it does feel the same with that. It always has. And oh, I'm so thrilled to finally have this in my stash, and I'm kind of feeling like I should have gotten more, but looking at the pile on my bed right now, I'm probably fine for a couple of years, really. And I seem to be on a particular colour theme this time around, because the next booth I ran over to was Labie and Aimée, because I knew that she had, oh well, they had, their whole team had died on this new Retrosaria Mondim base. So you may be familiar with that yarn already. It's this Portuguese merino yarn that has such a high twist that lots of people like knitting socks with it. I am still a bit hesitant about knitting socks without any reinforcement material, despite the high twist, so I got, excuse me, 4, I can't count, 4 skeins. In the very same colorway that, no, it's not the same color, but it's definitely in the green blue area. This is a far more green color, so hoping that the green will show up this time. The color is called, please no one tell me how to pronounce things. I know I'm bad at it. We all know this, and I'm sorry. So Mondim from Retrosaria and Labie and Aimée. I am so excited about this. Now, I've always known that, you know, Aimée shares my love of the rustic yarns, the non-superwashes, but I think we all know how beautifully superwash yarns dye up. There's just something about how they take to colour, and so often hand dyers find it more difficult to dye on non-superwash and getting the same sort of saturated colours. I've had my go on that as a very, very non-professional dyer, not even a dyer at all, to be honest, and it's hard. So when they can produce this on non-superwash, I am all about it. So I got 4 skeins just for my own pleasure, but I am definitely considering producing some designs in this yarn. I'm gonna try to like be a proper adult now, and I try to have a couple of conversations with yarn makers at Edinburgh to do a bit more official agreements with yarn support and stuff, because I'm just so all over the place that I just buy everything, and it's not really, I don't know, the best way for me always. So I'm trying to grow up and do it properly, but this, I'm not gonna grow up just yet. I'm gonna knit something beautiful for myself in this. I don't know what yet. Andrea Morris launched a cardigan design using this yarn that is beautiful. It's called LYS, the little yellow sweater, but it's a cardigan. Anyway, LYS. So I could be making that, I could be making something else. I don't know, it's just something. Could be designing with this too, to be honest. There's nothing really stopping me. I just needed to have it, and I'm quite proud that I just restricted myself to this one color, because it was really, really, really beautiful, and I saw that it sold really well, which makes me so happy that people are all over non-superwash bases now, that people have seen the light. definitely no anti-superwash here. You guys know I love my superwash yarns as well, but this is where my true love lies, and so when that enthusiasm spreads, I am happier, everyone's happier. So I think my next stop after that was JC Rennie. There are 10 balls here altogether. There are 4 red. I think in the light at the festival, and this is probably the only negative thing I have to say about Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and that's saying something. It's an amazing festival and I have so much fun there, but the one downside, which they can't really help, is the light. It's not always the best light to see exactly what a colour looks like. And this came out a little bit more orange out in daylight. I was hoping it would be a little bit more a warmer red. It's actually looking nicer on camera, so you know, I'm guilty of poor lighting too, I guess. But I still like it. You guys know I love my reds, so I just got a sweater quantity of red JC Rennie, and no idea what it's going to be, but this is such an affordable yarn. I'm just, when I see it, I need to get it. And I did also get grey. I thought the grey could go well with the red, but maybe something else, I don't know. But I also got some yellow, a bit of a paler yellow than what I like and what I think I look good with, but I do have some friends in mind who maybe would want something using this colour. We were talking about it earlier, and I realised I had no sweater quantities in yellow that I was really willing to part with, so now I have that and I could knit something for someone else who likes this yellow. That was kind of the thinking there. I'm in the generous knitting year this time. I do have a lot of cardigans here. It's not like it's ever about need when I make them for myself. So I'd actually almost forgotten about this yarn. It was on my mental shopping list. I didn't write anything down because I'm like, if I forget it, then how much do I really want it? So I did remember this when I walked past the Midwinter Yarns booth. They are amazing people and they always have amazing yarn. I absolutely love their selection, and so I picked up 2 skeins of Snældan 4-ply. Given now that I'm so into designing fairies shawls, well, I've just designed one really. I thought I might try one in actual fairies yarn. And I thought this yarn was quite prickly when I felt it in there. It could be because it was a little bit hot, but now that I actually got it outside of the festival context, I think it's really nice. It does remind me a little bit about Loft, but it's not as soft as Loft, but close, and yeah, I really like it. This is definitely going to be a nice shawl. Don't know what it's going to be yet, but I think probably a design of my own, maybe. The yarn does have about 360 meters each, so this is about the same quantity that I made my yellow shawl in, so I know that's going to be roughly enough. Hoping to be able to actually have it enough for a slightly bigger shawl, because with shawls and me, I mean, the bigger the better, right? It should probably come to as no surprise that I could not go to the Rauwerk, that did not come out right, Christina's booth. Christine, sorry, I don't even know how to say that in German. I realise I'm saying in Norwegian. That's not helpful. Here we go, that's better. So I've been to this shop in Munich. It's one of my favourite yarn shops. If I was going to have a yarn shop, it would be like this. And so I'm so pleased that this yarn has not only expanded from a DK worsted to a 4-ply, but it's even been dyed in these amazing colours. So I got a grey contrast, right? And I got 4 of these raspberry reds. It's like red, but sort of bordering on pink, or pink bordering on red, depending on how you look at it. I adore this color. I don't know exactly what to make with it, but obviously this is a sweater quantity with a contrast, I might add. So I'm thinking I might just do a yoke. Whether it will be someone else's design or one of my own, I don't know yet. I should design my yokes. People are all about the yokes, and I'm all about the yokes, so why am I not designing it? I think I have this thing, like, if there's a lot of demand for something, I am less likely to do it, even if it's something that I genuinely really like. So I'm gonna try to pull my act together there and actually maybe produce some more simple yoked sweaters, or maybe it will be a cardigan, you know. I'm trying to convert you all to steeking. Don't know how steekable this yarn is. My guess is yes, but also it's merino, and merino usually isn't, so this is also why this yarn fascinates me, because it is merino, but it's a very, very different merino. It doesn't feel like your usual super soft merinos, but it's also not scratchy. It's just woolly. It's really woolly. So very pleased to have this. Definitely not my last Rauwerk. I can't, especially with my sore voice. It's definitely not my last Rauwerk rodeo. So yeah, I should probably knit up that first sweater quantity out of both theirs. That would be something. And I then walked up to Usxhitita. I feel like Usxhitita yarn is like the latest rage in hand-dyed yarns now. Not only because they have amazing yarn and amazing colors, like, oh my god, I could have bought everything there. They also have pet squirrels. Not because you should just like take any animal from the forest and tame them, but because they actually saved 2 little squirrel babies that had fallen out of the nest so that the mother would not accept them back again. So they raised them as their own, and they're just like jumping around in their holes. It's so cute. You should follow them on Instagram. I'm all about the squirrels. So they have baby squirrels and they have amazing yarn. So again, I seem to be on about the sweater quantity with the one contrast. That is apparently what I do now. So I got this beautiful navy blue. I hope you can see that it's blue. It's coming up very dark here, but it's a very dark navy blue. It's on the Minimalist base, which is 100% Highland wool, brackets mulesing free. It's a non-superwash, 350 meters per 100 grams. The color is called Waya Tone, I think. It's very hard to read with a glossy marker, but hopefully that came up. Yeah, I absolutely love this. And there's I guess this is the undyed version. Love an unbleached white. So altogether, I guess you were looking at another yoke or another cardigan or something. I'm trying to just kick myself into motion and actually just start designing lots of cardigans so that I have them on paper, cardigans and sweaters, so I can just cast those on whenever I have the costinitis bug instead of everyone else's designs. Because as much as I love knitting everyone else's designs, I should probably use my limited time for, you know, building up Skeindeer knits and making designs and feeling super creative and giving you guys patterns and stuff. So there's an idea. But yeah, I am just in love with this base. I think it's so nice. It from the meterage reached as sport weight, but when I'd forgotten what base I had bought, I thought this was DK. Just looking at the thickness of the strands, I think you could go either way with this. GK, fingering, sport, what have you. Another exciting thing about Edinburgh Yarn Festival is that a local dyer to me, who I've actually never met in person, came up and had like I guess a pop-up shop at the Solda booth, and that is Ocean, who is Ocean by the Sea. That is kind of, Ocean is her name, Ocean by the Sea is her yarn company, and she does botanical dyed yarn from here in London. And she even does these labels that I guess she said if you plant them they will grow into things. Now I've had my attempts at planting things in our little terrace garden pot before, and I don't think I'm going to sacrifice this label just yet because that did not turn out well. The weeds thrive there. I'm not sure I want to waste this beautiful label just yet. So I got this skein, which is not my usual color, but I just got this image in my mind to do some hat. I have this idea of some hat. Don't ask me, just yeah. So this is the Angelo colorway, and it's in the Meadow base, which is an organic merino in the DK weight, 225 meters on 100 grams. It looks really nice and well defined. I do not think this is superwash, but it still nonetheless feels like a nice soft merino. So I'm really fond of this base. I'm thinking hat. Whether it will be a hat for me or for a gift for a friend, I do not know. But it was really lovely to meet Ocean. Her booth got completely swarmed. I don't expect she had any skeins left at the end. So whilst I would have loved to get more skeins to make something bigger, the line behind us was quite long, so I wanted to leave some for them as well. So that is one skein I got from Edinburgh Yarn Festival. And at this point I had realized that I had bought quite a bit. So now me and Caroline of the Knitting Vicariously podcast and Kristen of the Wool and Vine podcast, we're just looking, you know, at the end of day 2, we're just looking. We're not going to buy anything except we're going to go look at the Wollmeise booth. And at the Wollmeise booth they had a sweater quantity of their beautiful colorway Merlot, and it was in the blend base. And the blend base was exactly what Caroline was wearing that day. It's a sweater that she made quite a while ago and it still holds up beautifully well. The yarn is well defined and I actually mistook it for store-bought at some point. So, you know, twist my arm. So I got 4 skeins, which should be enough for a garment. They say it's sport weight and the meterage does suggest that, but because it's 150 grams and 333 meters on 100 grams, which is a bit of a weird way to write that, which probably makes me think I got way too much. I think I put together the 100 gram, hang on, let me do the maths. Okay, so I thought I got 1,332 meters, but what I really got was 1,998, so I have 2,000 meters. I could have done with 3 skeins. Oh well, this is how they get you. Oh, that means I can do cables. So while I don't understand this, I think, German abbreviation, I believe this is 70% wool, 20% cashmere, and 10% nylon. I could be wrong there, but what I've seen is that this has held up really well. People are making amazing long-lasting garments from this. So, and this is my color, and I thought it'd been pretty good. I hadn't bought anything burgundy that thus far. Like all that you've seen right now, it's not been burgundy. It's been some reds, not burgundy. So it was a ticking bomb, really. It had to happen. So got 4 skeins Merlot from Wollmeise and their blend base. And as I just talked about earlier, I did get some skeins of dye Gilpin Lalland. I got 5, 2 of the other ones are in the project, so I have already knitted up 1 skein. Ha! Don't say I never knit with my yarn, even though there is a lot here I haven't knitted with. But anyway, got 3 left. They should really all go in the same project bag and become that beautifully soft sweater. I reckon I'll need less than 2 skeins for the sleeves, so this other one is for the body. I think it will be enough for a crop sweater. Maybe I should have gotten a 6th one. Nah. So anyway, it's so soft. You would not believe that this was pure Scottish 100% lamb's wool at all, but it is, and it's amazing. And it is very different because it comes, it's very loosely plied, but each of the 2 plies actually is a well plied 2 ply. So you can actually split them apart like this. They come undone very easily and then they come back together again. So I don't know what it is about that, but I quite like it. You could ideally actually take apart the plies so that you had 2 plies. I don't think that would be too difficult with this yarn. Obviously you still have to unwind the whole thing, but it's totally possible. It wouldn't like ruin anything. I think they're really just kind of, yeah, loosely plied around one another. So that's dye Gilpin Lalland. Can highly recommend the yarn. I think everyone who felt the samples in their booth were pretty wowed by it. So yeah. So in Edinburgh Yarn Festival, I was staying with my 2 friends, Aimée and Christina, who I know from Bergen and Bergen Knitting Festival, and we shared this beautiful Airbnb together, and it had a lot of empty shelves. So we decided to put in our purchases into those shelves and kind of decorate with, you know, make ourselves feel at home. And I definitely had the biggest pile, but you know, we all did pretty good. And I was looking at my shelf and I thought, that's more burgundy than I remember getting. I don't think I bought that much burgundy. And true enough, these 3 skeins was given to me in a very belated birthday present from Caroline of Knitting Vicariously, who has done the knit on Instagram. And she had bought these for me, I think, at Rauwerk, and my birthday's in January, and now it's March. So this has been a long time coming, and I'm so excited to finally have it. Because every time we have met, she's been like halfway into our meetup going, I forgot your birthday present. And I'm like, thanks. Oh, I forgot I was getting a birthday present. That's exciting. And I'm kind of expecting, you know, a small thing. Like, you know, a lollipop or something. And I get 3 beautiful skeins from Oval. Never knitted with Oval before, and you know, there's lots of burgundies out there, and there's some that are a bit too red, a bit too brown, a bit too blue. Caroline was bang on. This burgundy is pretty much identical to the Wollmeise Blend. The colour is Juneberry. I love this. This is a sport weight. They do what they call O-wash. It's like an organic superwash treatment. It feels very similar to Rosy Green Cheeky Merino Joy. They do a similar superwash that is organically certified, whatever that means. This has 280 meters per 100 grams, so I'm thinking the 3 of these could be an amazing shawl. Not exactly sure what yet, but I'm thinking some kind of shawl. So thank you, Caroline. This is amazing. Yeah. Oh, so more burgundy for me. I was also really excited to see that there were a couple of samples around Edinburgh Yarn Festival that were in my designs. I know that the 2 mittens that I knitted for Loop London were displayed at the very front of their booth so everyone could see, and that got me so excited. I didn't know how to contain myself because they were selling kits for those mittens. I really should have announced that up front, but nah, hindsight. So they were there. And in addition to that, Ovis etc. was vending at Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I finally got to meet her. Although, you know, I could have easily run up to any of the other 2 Saskias there and assume it was her, but I luckily ran into the right one first, and it was really lovely to meet you, Saskia. And she had a lot of samples knit up in my designs as well, because I do enjoy working with her yarn. I have made a couple of designs with her yarns already, and more will come because her yarn is amazing. She's got an amazing sense of bases and colours. We're very much on the same page there. So I left her with these 2 samples, and it's the Fun Moon mitts that I designed in her yarn and the Effie mitts that also were designed using her yarn. So they were hanging there along with some that she had knitted, and I forgot to pick them up. So when she returned them to me on the Sunday on the Making Wool event, I also got 2 skeins of hers that she gave to me. And okay, where do we begin? This one is a Corriedale skein, and I love Corriedale so much. It's a fingering weight. It's got 400 meters. It's the wine colorway. It's just really nice. And the other skein I'd actually picked up several times when I visited her booth and was like, do I want this? I want this, but I want like 10. But yeah, I got one and it's beautiful. This yellow, I'm all about this yellow. I think we both are. So it's the same color actually that I've worked with, I think on one of these. I think this one. It's the Toffee colorway, and it's on the Shetland DK base, which is one of her most amazing bases if you ask me. 100 grams, 250 meters, non-superwash, grown in Holland. So don't know what this is going to be yet. Most likely a hat. If it were up to me, I'd have a massive cabled robe in this, but you know, restraint. So yeah, thank you so much, Saskia. That was so generous, as you always are. So gonna go back in the sash. We are nearing the end of this disaster, this beautiful disaster. But as tradition demands, you know, you have to get a pink hazel bag at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. If you don't know who pink hazel is, she's basically kind of, I'm gonna say, the most sought after knitting bag maker in Europe. She's, I think, based in the Netherlands, and I already have 2 other project bags of hers. I have one that's kind of vintage pink hazel, if you will. It's from late 2016. That has like a deer on it, and I described it to, actually I'll show you. Just realized I was staring at it and it's right here. So yeah, this bag I got ages ago when she was vending at Pom Pom's Christmas party in 2016, which is kind of like the starting point of my podcast. I feel there's so many things that begun there. So that was my first pink hazel. I have since then gotten a massive bag from last year's Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and this year I got another small one in the same design as that deer bag, with foxes. Aren't they cute? So yeah, it's not exactly my usual color scheme, but you know what? I love having that dye Gilpin project in this. It still fits in here, and it's all the same kind of tealy aesthetic, and for some reason that just gives me a kick. So I really like that, and I'm very pleased to get a pink Hazel bag because pink Hazel is awesome and her bags are always stellar quality. Yeah, glad to have actually found a bag, because her booth is one of those booths that gets emptied pretty quickly. They are usually pretty nice, both in pink Hazel and Woolly Originals, in that they paced out their stock so there was something every day, so that people coming on day 2 and 3 could still get something. You know, they don't have to do that, I don't think, but it's really nice that they do. And I think they're all sold out, so got myself a little bag. I do have some other little purchases and acquisitions and things that I just thought I'd show you very briefly at the very end of all this stuff. Try not to drop it all on the floor as it's balancing on my lap. I got myself 2 clover hooks. This is size 2mm and 2.5. I am still hell-bent on making that beautiful top from the latest pom-pom. That one that I've forgotten the name of, but it's crochet, and kind of in the empty spaces it has what looks like Norwegian stars. I've tried to read the pattern. I don't understand anything. I have no idea what I am doing. I really want to swatch with it before I start, but I'm not getting a sense of the stitch repeat whatsoever, so I'm a bit don't know what I'm doing really, but you know, have not given up. Clearly getting some more ergonomically appropriate hooks. I think these are anyway. There were a lot of different hooks at this particular booth, and these just looked comfortable. Yeah, there were some crochet hooks there that looked like toothbrushes. Anyway, I did also pick up some knitting needles, some 50cm circumference hayas, because they're quite difficult to get hold of, and some 25cm addies. So these are similar to the addies that I've actually really properly dismissed earlier, except one of the needles are longer, so it's like hopefully a better take on their earlier 20cm needles that were sort of, I guess, 9-inch. I hated them, so I'm hoping I'm going to like these two. I just got them in some sizes that I normally knit sweaters in, so I think that's a 4mm and a 375. I basically only use these short needles when I'm at the very end of the sleeve. I tend to use, I start off with a 40cm 16-inch circular, I go down to 30cm, I think that's a 12-inch, and this is a 25cm, no idea what's an inch, I think 10-inch, so hopefully that will work well. But sometimes I'm just happy doing magic loop with the 16-inch, to be honest. I also got a Usxhitita pin, a massive one with the squirrels. I love that they have squirrels. This is not going to be the last time I buy their yarn, let's be real. I'm just kind of into their yarn. I think they are like the latest thing now. Their booth was pretty popular at EYF. I hear a lot of people talk about them, and their colours are amazing, and if you follow them on Instagram you get squirrels and amazing dancing and lip syncing, so what more could you really want? Oh, and the Korsakoff and this cardigan are now award winning. So as per tradition, Stephen and Penelope were handing out these style awards. I have already 2 of them from earlier, one from previous Edinburgh Yarn Festival and one from Vogue Knitting Live last year. So that's really nice. It was Malia was handing out these, so that was really nice. And we also got these from Mason Dixon Knitting. They were having like a fashion show where everyone who wanted to could just get up and parade around in their knitwear. And so I walked around with my Korsakoff and my loosening shawl. My own designs, just to, you know, make sure people notice. And yeah, so I have some awards. I was also given some amazing pins. I got the West wool pin. This is the new Stephen West yarn that I am all about. So basically I think it's Stephen West and Malia of Stephen and Penelope who have developed this new yarn. The only reason I didn't buy is because I'm going to try to be a proper adult and do a pattern support request, but we'll see. I do have their kind of sample box that designers could request, so I can actually read you a bit about the yarn, so I don't have it here to show you. It says, "Hi there fiber friend, we are so excited to introduce you to the new wool label West Wool." I am too. West Wool is created by Malia May Joseph and Stephen West, bracket that's us. We're the owners of Amsterdam-based Stephen and Penelope and Westnitz. Our desire is to develop a yarn and take things in our own direction with both of our brands, and design has inspired 2 original yarn bases named Bicycle, fingering weight, and Tandem, DK weight. Both yarn weights are created with the same blend of Falkland Merino 90% and Texel 10%, a Dutch breed of sheep. That's Texel. I think that's Texelar that I've used with Ovis, etc. before. By blending the 32 plus micron Texel with Merino, we've created a blend with exceeding loft and character. Thicker fibers like those in Texel wool don't compress easily, creating more space in the spun yarn, which means more air can get in. More air means more warmth and taking full advantage of one of the best properties of wool, blending the Merino with a more robust yarn that has a bit more bite to it, as it means this yarn will be more suitable for cables and colour work like fair isle, mosaic and brioche knitting, while still remaining soft to the touch. I can totally confirm, having seen and felt the yarn. Bicycle and Tandem both come in a starting palette of 24 fresh solid colours, and we aim to expand the palette in the near future. In naming these yarns, we look to bring something of the charming city of Amsterdam to the mix, and the names Bicycle and Tandem were the perfect fit. A tandem bike is a bicycle built for 2. In Amsterdam, the bicycle is omnipresent. The Dutch bike boom of the 1890s led to widespread and constant use. Today, when people think of Amsterdam, they think of bicycles. Included in this package are an easy mix and match cards of all the colorways, some fun gifts, and a bit of our heart. If you should find inspiration here and would like to larger amounts of design, blah blah blah, blah, design request things. So I'm gonna try to be a proper adult and do the thing. So these are the colorways. I love how they've done this. This is not a, you know, this is not your everyday shade card. This is done with thought. So there's a lot of colors here. I love this. So just to give you an idea. Were you one of those kids, like if you got to join your parents for those shops that sold paint and stuff, and you got to see all those like, paint shade cards, and you got like really excited? Yeah, I was that kid. And here's a sample. Oh my god, why didn't I just buy the yarn? This is really nice. I love this yarn completely. It's really, really, really nice. And how nice of them to give us a brioche sample though. It's really nice for brioche. So much squish. It's like a stress ball. It's like, yeah, squish, squish. It's like the ones that you, I don't know if you give blood, I do that, and they give you this ball and you kind of get to squish. They should just hand out these. Oh yeah, and they got bicycle stitch markers. Oh, this is brilliant. So yeah, thank you. So in the other series of Ellie Gets Spoiled Rotten, it's also a La Bien-Aimée pin, so I've got a pin of each. I also picked up this shade card from James & Smith. They've been teasing us with a new shade card for the longest time, and I finally got one. It only contains the 2-ply jumper weight yarn, and it's basically a purchase on behalf of a friend of mine. Anushka, who has the Crimson Stitchery podcast, wanted a shade card, so this is basically just her purchase that is currently residing in my home until I see her and actually remember to bring it. I also picked up the hat for the latest Shetland Wool Week, which I have yet to attend, but you know, I can always wish and want. The man behind this hat pattern was handing them out himself, and his name should be here. Oliver Henry, the wool man. I have seen and heard this man lots of times. I think he's been on Fruity Knitting's podcast. I think Dave's covered him a bit. If you heard his voice, you're not going to forget. He's got a very soothing Shetland accent, and he was telling me all about how this is basically his life, and he'd made that into a hat design with, you know, sheep and boats and what have you, and I just love this. I have only knitted the first Shetland Wool Week hat, the one with the bobble sheep, and would definitely love to make all of the other ones. And I keep saying that every year I'm going to knit them all, and I never do. And like, how long is it going to take me really? Why can't I just get around to it already? I was also given these lovely patterns. This is Spring Lily by Odur Bjørtskjuladottir. Sorry if I mispronounced that, but yeah, thank you so much for giving me these. One is for me and one is for a giveaway. And she also gave me, and I'm so excited about this, Create Your Own Lopa Pesa. Yeah, I've always wanted this book, and now I have two. One for me and one for some giveaway in the future, or a Cal prize or something. I am so excited to have this. I haven't actually opened it yet, but I'm sure going to after this. Really curious about this. Thank you. That's so generous to just give us all this stuff. Thank you so much, Odud. In the series of having two things, I also happen to have 2 issues of the Green Bean zine. This is by Katie Green of the Green Bean podcast, and I basically bought one for myself, and the other one I'm gonna pass over to my friend Anushka. So that's why there are 2. I really like this. I mean, Katie's a massive talent, and I love this. So, ooh, there's a sticker in here that I put in here when I bought it, which is Sassy Knits, Cici Knits or Cecilia Knits. She goes by many pronunciations. She has started a podcast, so that's something apparently I use as a bookmark right now, a sticker that she gave me, and you should check that out. But yeah, you should also check out Katie Green's podcast and her zine and the amazing stuff that she bought. You may notice a poster in the background. I'm gonna see if I can show you. That is her poster of British sheep breed that I thought I'd keep in the background of the podcast, even though you can't really see it that well, but it's there. And that is basically it. I have nothing else that I have either been given or purchased now to show you. There are a couple of tote bags in the background, but I don't know that that is as interesting. So yeah, I'm pretty much done talking about everything I got, and I thought I'd just share with you my experience of going there. I didn't film much. This always happens usually. I think I'm going to film everything, and then I realized in the end that it's really hectic and I'm carrying a lot of stuff. There's people everywhere and I don't want to shove my camera in their face, and it just becomes another thing, you know, so it just didn't happen. But I had so much fun. I took the train up there Wednesday morning, and I love the train ride up there. You know, every time I go up there, there's always going to be someone telling me, you know, it's cheaper and faster to fly, and I'm like, okay, first of all, carbon footprint, but second, given all the time that it takes me to actually go to a London airport, and the time I have to spend waiting there, and the time I have to put in just because you never know about the trains here. If any of them don't run, you can't get there in time. This has happened to me a lot. I would rather just get the local bus up to King's Cross station and go there and sit on the train for 4.5 hours instead of spending those getting to the airport and being at the airport and taking the plane and then getting from the airport to Edinburgh. All in all, it's about the same amount of time, if not more, and I don't have to pay extra for luggage on a train. So I much prefer that and arrive at the centre of Edinburgh. And this time I actually arrived over at Haymarket, and the first thing that happens when I leave the station is that I meet a friend of mine from a knitting group in London, and she's moved up to Scotland since, because she'd just taken a class, so it already started out really nicely. And then I found the Airbnb over at Polworth, and yeah, that was 3 very long stairs up, but once I got there with all my things and I was out of breath, I was wowed by our Airbnb. It was this beautifully huge flat that I just wish was mine, honestly. We had so much space, and I spent the first night there on my own, and then the day after my 2 friends from Norway came over, and it was just really nice. Almost like I wish there wasn't a festival so we just could have hung out there, but you know, I'm also really happy that we went to the festival because that was so much fun. And I was actually feeling a bit weird about it in the beginning, like I was sort of more overwhelmed in advance than I have been in the past. But once we got in, it was amazing. This time I actually hadn't gotten around to get a podcast pass. In the past years they usually you can submit for a podcast pass and then you get it, and you will basically be asked to be at the podcast lounge at a certain time and obviously place and meet and greet essentially. This time it wasn't like that. They had hinted that you could get a pass, and I know some people had taken the hint and gotten a pass. I did not, because I wasn't sure what I could promise, and I'm pretty glad I didn't, because it's nice to go with no expectations as well. But I will say that I missed the pass in the lounge, because it gave everyone a set time and place where we could meet and a bit more confidence that this is why we're here, this is the point of why we're here, instead of feeling like we are kind of intruding upon each other's time and place when we just run into each other in the market. So I found it so nice every time anyone came up to me, and everyone was so lovely and totally understanding of all my slightly distracted quirks, and it was just amazing meeting each and every one of you. But I do think it was, for many of us, easier last year when there was that time and place. I do miss the podcast lounge, and I hope they will bring it back. It doesn't really take more than just having the time and place. I don't think it needs any organising. Well, maybe that's just me. So like I said, enjoyed myself. It was massively overwhelming, but it's such a treat just being at this event where like, everyone's a friend. You know, you walk into so many people you recognize from here and there, people I never met, people I only talked to online, viewers of the podcast was telling me the nicest things. I am spoiled rotten, and I'm like probably obnoxiously super high on myself now. So it was just really great. Yeah, and the marquee was still there, same as last year, which is a massive improvement to the festival. Having that hangout space where you can just sit and knit and eat and chat. I love the marquee, it's such a great addition. I will also say they could have gone a bit easier with the heating. I don't think we need heating at a festival like that. We've all got woolwear, it's fine. It was actually really nice to be sat in the solder booth, because not only is it full of amazing things, but there's like a sofa seating at the back of the room with open windows. Well, that was pretty good. I did not attend many of the kind of extracurricular events apart from the big Thursday knit night. That was really fun, but I know from experience that I'm always too exhausted to attend the ceilidh, so I did not. I was hanging out at a friend's Airbnb, and I did run into, well, they came to us, a couple of people who had been to the ceilidh and came back to us, and were a little bit tipsy and overexcited and had a lot of fun. So I felt like I took part of it, you know, from afar. I did also get a lot of time to wander around in Edinburgh City, and you know, every time I do, I'm like, why am I not living here already? I love this city. I feel like I'm coming home every time I go there, and I can't really explain it. It just feels right. But apart from that, I really have no reason to move there. I got nothing there. I'm just kind of really drawn to the place. If I could ever afford a place there that I really liked, I'd probably go in a heartbeat, to be honest. So yeah, I pretty much only have good things to say. We were exhausted, but it was a nice kind of exhaust, you know, and I mean, the Sunday event was really fun because it's the Making Wool event. It's basically where smaller vendors get to sell their yarn if they can't, for some reason, maybe afford the rest of the market. They can vend there. It's often like shepherds and people who are a bit closer to the actual wool production who do that. There's a lot of really great stuff there. I kind of wish that they would kick off the festival with that event sometimes, because I'd rather like I spent more of my budget there. I said that last year as well though, so I could have just planned for it. And it's a really nice event to kind of wind down the whole thing. To, if you're not quite ready to accept that it's over, you get like a smaller event at the very end. So I really liked that, and it was nice to bump into a couple of people who I hadn't seen earlier and who I saw again. So I really do like that extra event. I did not get tickets for the diversity and inclusion talk that was hosted by Cecilia and Sophia and Jean and Aimée. So that was a massive regret. I wish I was there, but there weren't that many tickets. So I've heard rumors that they have recorded it, and that recording will make it to the internet. So I hope we can see it there. I am really glad that that was an event that took place, so very interested to hear what was said. And yeah, at the end of the day, I had Monday to just wander around in town, and I did, and then I took the train back, and the first thing I did getting back was just straight back to work, practicing for a lecture that I gave at the end of yesterday on Tuesday, which I was really dreading. I did not feel like it was going to go well, and in the end actually went really well, because the topic of the lecture was essentially my PhD, which is stuff that I know, and it was really nice to teach postgrad students, master's students rather than bachelor students. So that was a really good experience, even though I had virtually no voice left, and I felt like I had some dust in my throat, which is probably not a good sign. So yeah, it wasn't as bad as I was dreading, even though I was super exhausted. And today, at the end of today, I am going to go to a cinema viewing of my favorite musician's documentary for his latest album, Empath. I've talked about him before. His name is Devin Townsend, and it probably seems like really weird that I'm like bringing in my favorite music here, but the thing is, I moved to London about 7.5 years ago, and about 8 years ago this month I saw his band for the very first time in Oslo, and lots of events escalated, and it basically was what led me to move to London. Now this band is not based in London or anything like that, but they perform here a lot, and I came down here a lot to see them perform, and eventually I really liked going to London so much that I moved here on a whim. So it's kind of my origin story in a way. I don't think any of this would have happened if it weren't for that band. So I'm really pleased to go to see that documentary today. The cinema viewing is like literally up the road from Loop. It's in my area, so I'm already stoked about that. And I totally had a peek at the venue yesterday because I was there. It's like, yeah, it's my area, so that'll be fun. I expect I'm probably going to run into him today because usually it's what happens, and you know, he's met me a lot of times in these 8 years. Pretty much know him by name by now, because sometimes I'm the fangirl, I'm the really awkward, hello, I really like your music. So that's the plan today. So I'm gonna bring some knitting for the cinema viewing. I'm gonna go with some friends of mine who I mainly know through being into the same band, but they just so happen to also knit, so that's pretty awesome. So basically gonna knit and watch a documentary with a bunch of metalheads and confuse them with our clacking needles. It would be great. So thank you all for watching. Thank you all for watching my episode number 100. Have you watched them all? I hope you haven't, but I'm kidding. But if you have, let me know in the comment section below, and if you haven't, that's fine too. Gosh, that's a lot of episodes. I can't believe I've made that many, to be honest. Speaking of which, I have also made a video of kind of the construction and walkthrough of the Korsakoff cardigan. I don't know if it's more of a hindrance than help, but I'm gonna upload it anyway, and you will see if you like it. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.